It's as it had wanted in the parliament. How delicate is its position and how more difficult is it?
Well, the elections were conducted by our opponents, and they used every trick in the book, from money to disenfranchising our voters to prevent us from winning an outright victory. But we had promised to work within the system, and working within the system, we emerged as the largest party, but a government which is in some ways constrained. Now, this may be a good thing or it may be a bad thing. In moments of frustration, I think it's a bad thing, because you have so many expectations to live up to, and you cannot proceed as fast as perhaps you would like. But in calmer moments, I think maybe this restraint, in a sense, is good, because it does not permit you to proceed so fast that there is a backlash.
Problems like illiteracy, healthcare, unemployment, and social security, together with corruption and drugs, required an urgent solution. How far you are from solving these problems, and what is the top priority?
I can tell you that as far as corruption is concerned, we have wiped it out of our country by 90%. And I have said that if anyone has any proof about corruption relating to any member of the government, they should come forward without fear, and they will see the action we will take. But more than that, for common people who had to bribe to get justice, or they had to bribe to get a menial job, that kind of corruption has been wiped out. Because today there are elected representatives who are responsive to the needs of their constituents, who depend on votes. They don't depend on pleasing the dictator. And somebody who depends on the votes of his constituents must be fair to his constituents or her constituents to get re-elected. As far as drugs are concerned, we have moved heavily against the drug mafia. So much so that they are now organizing, fueling and funding rebellions against our government. Not only against the central government, but particularly in the northwest frontier province, where we have smashed heroin laboratories and we have picked up drug smugglers. We have found that big money is being pumped in to buy parliamentarians and tempt them into deserting from the government. But I suppose such fights make it all the more challenging for us to rise up.
Yesterday, during your press conference after your trip to the USA, you pointed out that unless elections were held in Afghanistan and the Najib regime stepped down, then there would be some chances for solving the Afghanistan issue. How far is the present situation from these conditions?
You see, it's one looks at all that bloodshed, looks at all that killing, so many people dead, wounded, maimed, and for what? Why are they going on fighting? It's so senseless. When you ask the question, the Soviets have gone, now what are you fighting for? And it comes to a small, simple thing for power. Is power really worth so much that one should cling to it over the bodies of one's own countrymen? Something I find difficult to understand. A political settlement is the best thing. Let there be a neutral government. Let there be a neutral government or a broad-based government which holds the elections. And let that government have elections which elect the representatives of the people of Afghanistan. It is so simple. If people are not scared of losing power, why should they not agree to a formula that puts the destiny of Afghanistan in the hands of the Afghans? That's all we say. We have no favorite. Zia-ul-Haq might have had favorites. Zia-ul-Haq may have wanted to put certain kind of people in power in Afghanistan. We don't. We want the goodwill of the people of Afghanistan. And we say, But we'll have no favorites, and the Soviets shouldn't have any favorites. Let the people of Afghanistan, through a free franchise, determine their own government. And if the present Kabul administration is prepared, in the larger interest of the Afghan nation, to step down, there can be nothing better than that. Because once they step down, they pave the way for a future solution.
After the withdrawal of the Soviet troops, how can you give an assessment on the ties between the Soviet Union and Pakistan?
Well, we are very anxious to improve our relations with the Soviet Union. But unfortunately, the Soviets are still backing Najib, and it's very difficult for us to accept the present Kabul administration. It's difficult for us to accept them, not because of any personal reason, but because nobody accepts them. Neither the Iran-based refugees accept them, nor the interim government accepts them, nor the commanders accept them, nor even ex-king, the former King Zahir Shah. Nobody accepts them. So that situation is complicating somewhat the development of good and warm relations between Pakistan and the Soviet Union. I think Secretary General Gorbachev is a man of courage and boldness. He has taken very bold steps in the Soviet Union to loosen it up, to open it. And he took a very bold decision to withdraw out of Afghanistan. But I think a little more boldness is really necessary to cut the umbilical cord and to say, all right, to Afghanistan, you determine your future.
You express the confidence that Pakistan-USA relations would expand and deepen after you concluded your visit to the USA. Do you really estimate that the shadows that had prevailed on your relations because of the Zia-ul-Haq regime relations with the USA have been eliminated now?
We went to the United States and retaliated the goodwill we felt for a country which had been a traditional friend of Pakistan for decades, but more than that had given massive aid in military and economic terms at a time when foreign troops were present in a country that neighbored us. More than that, the United States had linked its assistance to the restoration of representative government through the Pell Amendment. I think recently there has been a discernible change in American foreign policy, where in the past one used to hear distinctions between authoritarian and totalitarian leaders. We now hear that the sun has set on the dictator. I think it's a very positive move for freedom, to safeguard it and individual liberty the world over. We took messages of goodwill to the United States, and we took the message that not only were the ties between our two countries based on political bonds, but now there was the additional moral bond of supporting freedom, which I think is extremely important.
Ms. Boutto, your election was welcomed by all our political leaders in Greece. Do you plan to visit Greece, and when could that be?
Well, I had planned to visit Greece once when I was opposition leader, and I would very much like to be able to come and visit your country again. I know that you have had your own military coups, and you have had your own experience with dictatorship, and now you are on the path to democracy. As soon as an opportune time arises, I hope it would be possible. I send good wishes to the people of Greece.
That's what I wanted to do, just to ask you. Do you have a rough idea of Greece, and what would tempt you to see in Greece?
Well, one has heard so much about Greece in terms of history, and in terms of the Iliad and Homer, and it was the seat of an ancient civilization. It is said that Alexander the Great traveled through Greece to Pakistan And it was while he was here that he caught the fever that finally killed him in Babylon. Because of its historic mystique, I would very much like to visit the country. But more than that, it's a country that's come out of dictatorship.
Are there any personalities you admire, you have met, maybe Greek personalities, I mean, or you would feel like meeting them?
I don't really have any personal ties with Greece as such, although there were American Greeks and British Greeks while I was studying abroad, whom I did have the opportunity of meeting. But I have read about many Greek personalities, and I find that the women of Greece somehow have an enduring capability, an endurance. I don't know whether it is because in the political field they have been highlighted more or not, but somehow it is a sense of endurance which I respect.
I wanted to counter that, well, I suppose that if it is 10 times more difficult to persuade